Hello, you beautiful persons. So, your friend bought you Terraria because they want to play it with you, or maybe you just bought it for yourself.
My dying grandmother asked me to play the game as her final wish.
Regardless of the reason, you're an owner of Terraria now, and you're trying to play it only to discover you have no idea what the heck is going on. And look, I can't blame you, I love Terraria and the developers, but this is not an easy game to get into. Even my first time playing was difficult and confusing. I'd say it's pretty similar to Minecraft where you're just thrown into the world with little direction. That's why I'm here, to teach you bundle of balloons how to play Terraria, which I do think I'm a little bit qualified for. And I'll be doing so with the help of my good friends Adam, Gunther, and Lane.
Hi.
I...
What's up?
Yeah, so isn't there a tutorial world?
I mean, yeah, there is a tutorial world, but one, in my opinion, the tutorial doesn't go over everything that the player will need to know. It goes over the most basic aspects, then lets you figure everything else out. But more importantly, the desktop version doesn't even have the tutorial world, and I've put most of my time into that. And most of what I talk about will still apply to the version, so don't worry too much if you play console or mobile. Anyways, I'll be splitting my own personalized tutorial up into sections to hopefully make it easier to understand. We'll have menu navigation, starting out, NPCs, classes, multiplayer, and preparing for a boss. So with all that out of the way, let's make like the demolitionist end. You might think menu navigation would be the simplest thing to talk about. I mean, it's a menu, how bad could it be? So let's just start with the title screen menu. All this stuff isn't that important, so we can mostly just ignore it.
What about the workshop? You can turn bosses into Obama. It's pretty important.
Look, there's a time and place for everything, and generally speaking, your odd infatuation with Obama does not increase the game's quality. The important ones to pay attention to here are single player and multiplayer, which I hope is self-explanatory. I'll be delving more into the multiplayer differences later, so let's just focus on single player for now and get into creating your character. Everything you see here is changeable, except for this menu, so don't worry too much about perfecting your character. The most important thing to pay attention to here will be these four. All these will affect what happens to you when you die, but journey mode is just kind of its own separate thing, so don't worry too much about that.
What is journey mode, exactly?
Just wait, I'll get into that. The other three can join all the basic worlds. Classic is the one that most people go with as it makes for the easiest and least frustrating experience overall. When you die, you'll only drop coins, and the amount of coins you lose is also dependent on the type of world.
What types of worlds are there?
Hey, yeah, you're doing this, and I want you to do this. Medium core just makes it so you drop all your items on death. Honestly, my least favorite out of the options. Most of the times when you die, getting back to your items will be unnecessarily hard because the items help your movement, like, a lot. I wouldn't recommend this one unless you beat the game and are just looking for weird challenges. And of course, hardcore is just you die, you're dead for good. You respawn as a ghost upon death, and you just get to fly around being disappointed in yourself. Now you can still rejoin the worlds you died in as a different character, so at least you don't lose everything, just your life and items. Okay, so you've made a character, next step is to make a world. First step is to make a name, or just use the generator. It can actually come up with some pretty funny stuff. The name overall isn't that important, the only time you'll see it in a game is in death messages. The seed isn't important either. I mean, if you don't know what seeds are, basically these numbers determine how the world is set up. Though there are some challenge seeds that make unique worlds, but I wouldn't recommend it for your first time. Depending on when this video comes out, there might even be a menu to select these special seeds. Now the size of the world. This has a much larger impact than people might think.
Size. Larger impact.
Depending on the size of the world, there will be a certain number of structures generated. So a small world might have 6 beehives, while a large world might have 16. For me, personally, each world size is dependent on how many people are playing. If you're playing with friends, I'd recommend using the large world. There's more of you that'll be looking for more resources, and there'll just be more space in general. I'd say a medium world is good for single player. You'll have just about everything you need for yourself. As for small worlds, I'll only really use them if I'm missing resources in my main world. Like, if I'm out of wood and I don't have that many trees in my main world, I'll make a small world to go get some wood. Or maybe I'm missing a specific item from a chest, I can quickly just make a small world to go get it. Or sometimes I'll just use it if I'm playing with a friend and they can't host, so I'll make a small world to do my own thing while they're gone. Most frequently though, I'll use it to get materials from the opposing evil biomes. Speaking of the opposing evil biomes, the Corruption and the Crimson. These guys are awesome and suck at the same time. They're annoying biomes that constantly spread throughout the world but have a ton of great loot in them and are important to progression. The option here is to simply choose which of them will appear in your world, or you can just go with random. Both have their perks and downsides, but overall, which you choose doesn't really matter.
Well, actually, the Crimson gives better loot overall, so it's just the best option.
Yeah, but the corruption is easier, and it's not like the difference between them is that big.
Well, at least there's not a bunch of random holes in the ground.
But at least I don't have flash and piss monsters everywhere.
Okay, well, the Crimson boss is way more creative and interesting to fight.
Yeah, well, at least the items the corruption drops are actually useful.
Ladies, please. The Crimson is clearly the superior choice. Without it, we wouldn't have the Golden Shower.
Can you shut up?
Lastly, we have the most important factor for your world, the world mode. This determines the difficulty of your world. Okay, I'm going to start this off with Classic mode, as it's the one I recommend playing for your first world. It's what the game started with back in 2011. Enemies are pretty easy to deal with, you only lose half of your coins upon death, the drop rates of items are normal. It's literally the most basic and easiest form of the standard Terraria experience. If you're going in blind for the first time, this is what I'd recommend. You get to learn how to play the game while it remains relatively easy, but still hard enough to kill you at times. Expert mode. In my opinion, this is the best option for returning playthroughs. If I'm getting an itch to play Terraria, but I'm not looking for a super hard challenge, then this is the mode I'll play. The stats of all enemies are increased, with their health and damage being about twice as much with better AI for attacking the player. Bosses have more health and additional moves on top of the increased AI. When bosses are killed, their drops are put into treasure bags instead of loosely falling, on top of adding new boss items. The drop rate of items are increased by around 50%, including an increase in the amount of coins dropped. When you die, you'll drop 3/4 of your coins instead of half. Enemies can also pick up your coins now, so that's fun. Though if they have your coins, they won't despawn, so don't worry about that. The debuff duration is increased by 200%, and the time it takes the player to respawn is around 15 seconds, with an additional 15 seconds added if you're killed by a boss. Honestly, I just find it more fun in general, and this isn't to say classic mode is bad, I just don't really enjoy plowing through bosses. I like it when something stops me and makes me think about how I fight it, you know? Overall, it just makes for a much more engaging and difficult experience overall, while not making it frustratingly hard. Speaking of frustratingly hard, Master Mode is just Expert Mode but turned all the way up. Like literally the base is Expert Mode with more added on. Enemy stats are increased drastically, having around 50% more health than in Expert Mode. Bosses gain an increased 50% damage with 25% more health. They also drop a little pet that represents the boss, which I do think is cute. You lose all coins upon death, with enemies still being able to pick them up. Debuff durations are increased by 250% this time. Unfortunately, the drop rates are increased, but you do start out with an additional accessory slot to cover what the accessories are later. Master Mode to me just seems like artificial difficulty, just turning up the multiplier for the stats on enemies and such. But to be fair, I don't really mind it. I'm allowed to be a masochist every once in a while. Okay, so I feel I should clarify there are some other changes in both of these modes that I didn't bring up, but they didn't feel significant enough to include. So if you want to go see those, you can go check them on the wiki that I linked below. Lastly, Journey Mode. These worlds are only compatible with Journey Mode characters and vice versa. I'd say this is the closest thing you'll get to a Minecraft Creative Mode, as it's tailored towards building and experimenting more than anything. To start off, this gives you a bunch of extra stuff when you spawn in. Upgraded tools, a summon weapon, hooks, generally stuff I don't want to go over yet, so get out of here. Most importantly, it gives you access to the power menu. Here you get to decide a whole bunch of neat stuff. The most significant in my opinion is the research menu. If you put a certain amount of items into it, then those items will be added to the duplication menu. The duplication menu lets you pull whatever you want out infinitely. But wait, there's more. You can also control the time, the weather, the spawn rates, build rate, whether or not you're invincible, which is crazy, if evil biomes spread, and just the difficulty in general. I gotta admit, it's a little overwhelming, but very powerful. I mean, it is called the power menu. If you tried out the other difficulties and are still struggling to grasp how the game works, then I'd highly recommend giving Journey Mode a shot. Many will say it's considered cheating, but how you play the game is up to you. I'd rather you enjoy the game in Journey Mode than struggle and give up in Classic Mode.
What about the one thing people always talk about, the hard mode?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that has nothing to do with the world mode you set. Hard mode is simply a dividing factor of two separate points in the game. The beginning of the game is called pre-hard mode, and once you beat the final boss in pre-hard mode, the world will transition into hard mode. It has its own name because a lot of stuff changes with that transition. You'll still have the same world though, there will just be more. I won't be going over hard mode in this video, but I thought it'll clear up the confusion. Once you've gone through all these wonderful steps, you finally have a character in a world to call your own. Thank God we're done with all those menus. I'm starting to get a bit of a headache from all the... Okay, so I know this may be a bit to take in, but we'll get through this. To make this as easy as possible, let's split these corners into 4 categories. The top left is your inventory, with the top slot being your hotbar. You can easily move things in and out by moving your mouse into that area. The slot on the bottom is the trash can. Here you can throw items away by either dragging or holding control, then left clicking. An item will stay in the trash until another item is put in which case it's gone forever. Over on the right here we have your coins and your ammo slots. You can get coins from a variety of places, like killing monsters or finding them in treasure chests. And when you grab them, they'll go here. There's 4 ranks of coins: copper, silver, gold, and platinum. Silver is 100 copper, gold 100 silver, and so on. On the right is ammo, which only applies to weapons that'll use ammo like guns or bows. You can store up to 4 different kinds of ammo here.
I like to put jello bait in the ammo slot so they don't take any extra space. I guess you could say I'm a master baiter.
Can you shut up?
Underneath this are 4 other options. This one is honestly the best idea ever. It allows any items you have in your inventory to go into a chest that has that same item. Trust me, it's amazing and I wish more games use this. It'll also show you what items go where whenever they're stacking. The one next to it is the store inventory, which is just useful for helping your inventory look a bit fancier if you're into that. The bestiary shows you all the creatures you've encountered, monsters you killed, and what said monsters drop. For the bestiary, there's 4 different tiers for each creature. 1 kill will just show the name and image, 10 kills will show the stats and the description, 25 kills will show the item drops, and then 50 kills will show the percentages for each of the item drops. The only thing this doesn't apply to is bosses and NPCs who already have all their items shown. Lastly is arguably the least useful, which just allows you to emote with little text bubbles. Now if we move back up to the top left real quick, we'll have some little options hiding away. Hotbar lock makes it so when you close out of the menu, you can't interact with the hotbar with your mouse on accident. Block swap is a feature that lets you replace blocks with other blocks by simply placing a block in the same place as another block. It's like this. This is solely based on how powerful your pickaxe is though, with a faster pickaxe letting you place blocks faster. Lastly is this ruler, which helps you measure the length and jump. Very helpful for building. A couple little tips I'd like to share before we move on. If you hold Alt and click on an item, that item will become favorited, meaning it can't be quick stacked or thrown away, which is super helpful. However, if you press enter to open the chat, then hold Alt and click an item, you'll be able to put that item into the chat. Lastly, when you organize stuff in a chest, you can simply hold shift and click on an item to put it into the chest more quickly. There's also some more options once you're in a chest, but you can just look at those over here. Moving over to the top right area, we'll have your health, mana, and map. Pretty self-explanatory. Health is your health, mana is the cost of using magic weapons. The map options are a bit more special. You can either have no map, a mini map, or an overlay map. I can respect these two, but if you use the overlay map, you're insane. You can also change these out by simply pressing tab. The 4th option is a full screen map, which you can just open by pressing M.
What's this button under my map when I open my menu? It goes away after I click it.
That's because you have an informational accessory. It's a class of items that'll show you different types of information. This one, for instance, is a compass. You can click this to deactivate the information if you don't want to see it. Now for the most complicated section, so stay with me as we look at the bottom right. First things first is your armor. This will raise your defense stat, as armor does. Most armor sets will give a special effect if you have all of the matching, which it'll tell you about when you hover over it, so keep that in mind. Next to it is the vanity. This will not affect any stats, but it's how you make your character look slay. Like if you just really like how a piece of armor looks, but it isn't up to your level, then you can put it here. And feel free to mix and match whatever you like. Next to the vanity, we have the dye. Dye's name is what they sound like. They change the color of the armor depending on what the dye is. And there's some pretty cool dyes too, so I definitely recommend looking into these. I'll go into how you find them later. Next we have accessory slots. Accessories are like charms or medals or whatever. Basically, they increase certain abilities depending on which ones you have. Some make you run fast, some give you a double jump, some increase your attack. Regardless of what they do, you'll put them here to activate their abilities. You can tell if an item is armor or an accessory if it says equipable right here. You may have also noticed this little oval thing right here. Let's say you don't like how an accessory makes your character look, but you still want to use it. You'll simply click this and it makes the physical appearance go away while still functioning the same. And depending on what world mode you chose, you might have an additional accessory slot than what's shown here, with Master getting an extra from the get-go. Now looking at the left, we just have another vanity category, and it works exactly the same. If you like how an accessory looks, but don't want to actually use its effects, then you can just put it here. And of course, dyes also work the same. Now for something that is a bit more hidden away, these 3 buttons up here. I'm going to cover this one first, as it's the most significant. This is your equipment menu, and it's how you equip some more unique items. The first one is for pets. There's a large variety of pets you can find in Terraria from a variety of sources. They'll typically be labeled as equipable and say that it'll summon something. Next one we have is for light pets. This is a secondary pet that's main function is to provide light. There's way less of these than normal pets, but there's still a good amount to find. There's a rail system in Terraria where you can set up tracks and use a minecart to ride on them by pressing R when you're near the track. You always have a default minecart equipped though. This is just for special minecarts that have different effects and stuff. This one is for any type of mount in the game. These rideable creatures are machines that you find, and you can summon them by pressing an R button. Only when you're not near a track, of course. And then you just press R again to unsummon them. And finally, we have the hooks. This is similar to hook shots from Zelda. You equip one of them here and press the E button to zing zam all over the place. Super useful for mobility. You can also press E when you have one equipped to get out of a mount or minecart. Okay, now going back up, the next one is for housing, which we'll get into later. Finally, the leftmost option is for camera mode. Not super significant, but if you're wanting a clear photo of something, then this is really helpful. You can also open your map to take photos of a larger area, which is very snazzy. That's about it for the rightmost side, unless you count settings, which I guess is significant. It's how you leave your world and save it, plus of course just having typical settings there. There is a setting to change some UI and your mouse color though, so if you want that then go ahead. However, I'll be moving on to the last segment. The bottom left side is crafting. This one's pretty simple. You can just scroll through the options of what you want to craft, or press this little button to open a menu of everything you're able to craft. I don't know how I forgot to bring this up, but to craft, all you have to do is left-click the item you'd like to craft, then drag it into your inventory. And if you're wanting to make multiple of an item, all you have to do is hold down right-click. There's certain items you can place referred to as crafting stations. They'll say they're used for a type of crafting in the description. If you're within 3 tiles of the place station, then your crafting menu will show you more options for the crafting depending on what the station is. It's pretty simple. Okay, we're finally done with all the menus. Oh my god, that took 7 pages.
Are you okay, Joel?
So you're finally in the world. Hopefully you spawn in a plain biome next to this guy and a bunch of trees. If it looks different than this, then you should be a little worried. Maybe make a new world. Now, what you do here is completely up to you. But that ruins the point of this video, so the first step is destroying that tree. If you notice in the top right, you'll have your hotbar with 3 items. A sword, pickaxe, and axe. These are 3 out of the 4 fundamental tools you'll be needing as they all serve a specific purpose. The sword is obviously a weapon, it's made for dealing damage. The pickaxe is made for breaking any type of interactable block, like dirt. The easiest way I can describe a pickaxe breakable block is if it affects the movement in some way, it can be broken with a pickaxe. The axe only has one purpose. Trees. The secret 4th item, I'll get to soon.
A hammer?
Shh, spoilers. So now that we know how to break the tree, grab your axe and no! Do not break it from right there. You need to break it from the trunk. It will not regrow if you leave the stump. I don't know why people think this. Just hold on to the trunk and bam! You're already better than 30% of the player base. From the tree you'll get some wood and acorns. Acorns are just for your planting, but nobody cares about that. The wood, on the other hand, you've just obtained one of, if not the most fundamental item in the game. But now what do? Well, you have to make a house, of course. You don't want to be left out in the open, weak to the forces of nature and such. Building a house is really simple. Just grab some of that wood from the tree and build a beautiful rectangle. You can make it look like this too if you're a freak. Next, go to your crafting menu and make you a workbench. Workbenches are mostly used for building related things, so open your menu and you can look at all your options. Here we go. A door, chair, table, and wooden walls. All of these are clearly requirements for a lovely home. The door is 3 tiles tall, so you'll have to make a hole for that. And the table and the chair are self-explanatory. I hope. Now the walls are a special type of block, as you're able to walk through them. They're a background object. Oh my god, you screw up! It's okay, don't panic. Just go to your workbench and make this, a wooden hammer. The 4th type of tool.
That's what I said.
Their sole purpose is for breaking background objects and changing the shape of blocks. And now your house is complete. Though it is missing something. Ooh, look at that! Prey! Now, I know they're a bit scary, especially with this weird shank you have, so I want you to go back to your workbench real quick and look at this. Armor and weapons. The wooden sword has a more sweep-like attack, making it a lot easier to hit enemies. Now go out there and slay that wretched beast. Well, that's disappointing. Oh, that's what we were missing. Gel. Now you can make torches. Add some nice lights to the house and it's perfect. Never seen a more beautiful build. Last thing I'd recommend getting is a furnace, though it isn't needed right now. It just costs 20 stone, 4 wood, and 1 torch. You can find some stone underground, and a little bit in chunks under the surface. Oh, would you looky there, nighttime. I'd say it's best to wait it out inside your house. During the night, zombies and demon eyes spawn, and a lot of them spawn, so it can be a bit to handle, especially if this is your first time playing.
What do you mean? This is easy!
Zombies aren't able to bust down doors or anything, so you'll be waiting until the day, in which case the zombies will start running away. Now that it's a fresh day, I'd say it's a good time to go and explore the world. Before you do this though, there's a super helpful item for exploring called platforms. Platforms work as a normal block, except you're able to jump and fall through them by holding down. They're super helpful for getting over gaps and such, plus you can hit them with a hammer to make stairs. Now that you got that, let's head out. There's two sides to the world that have a multitude of different things. One side is always bound to have a desert and a jungle, with the other having a tundra and a dungeon, with both sides ending in oceans. Though random, one or both sides of your world will have the evil biomes I mentioned earlier, and both can be pretty hard to pass through, so I wouldn't blame you if you don't want to go through them. The number one thing I'd recommend looking for, though, is the desert biome, because they have cacti. Cacti can be used to make a really good early armor set, on top of a sword and a pickaxe. Deserts may also be home to a pyramid, which can hold some amazing loot. Throughout the world, there's also a multitude of different wooden chests that have a variety of items in them. Once you've either explored the entire surface or been stopped by the evil biomes, then it's time for the next best thing, going underground. As you explore the world, you may have noticed these holes that seem to go really deep down, or maybe you've already gone into them by the lure of a chest. These are typically close to the spawn of the world and lead to a massive cave system full of delicious treasure and ore. Though when you're going down, keep in mind that caves are dangerous, they're full of tough enemies. Though, that's probably not what you'll be dying to. Now before you head down, there's one super important thing that will greatly affect your gameplay. Did you see that? The shape of the cursor switch. You achieve this by pressing Control with your menu closed, and it changes the way that you mine blocks. When your cursor is a bit chunky, that means it's in automatic mode, where it'll mine whatever block the cursor is on in a way that'll progress the player's movement. For example, if you're wanting to mine straight, it'll mine 3 tiles wide so you can fit through. Or if you want to mine straight down, it'll mine 2 blocks so your character will fall down. This is solely dependent on which way your cursor is facing though, so it makes it way easier to mine. Pressing Control again makes the cursor skinnier, and this is the manual mode, where whatever block your cursor is on will be mined, so it lets you mine outside of walls and such. This also affects your building, with automatic connecting to another block, and manual letting you do whatever you want. This is a super important feature that I just don't see people talk about, so I wanted to bring it up. Trust me, it will save you so much time. With that out of the way, let's head down. Hopefully by now you found some ropes one way or another, because they're super helpful when it comes to exploring caves. Helps you die less to falling. Platforms are also still super useful here. As you go down, you'll likely come across these glistening blocks, also referred to as ores. You collect the ores to later bring them up and turn them into bars with a furnace. Then you're able to make armor and weapons and junk with them. So they're really helpful to collect now. At this point in the game, there's 5 different tiers of ore, and each has a different variant. Which does sound weird, but what I mean by this is that there's 5 tiers with 2 variants per tier, with your world only spawning with one of them. For example, the lowest tier of ore is copper and tin, and your world will only spawn with one of those. Tin is also slightly better than copper, which I think is weird, but that's just how it is. Doesn't really matter though, because the next tier, iron and lead, are way better than tin in general. The best ores you can come across are Demonite and Crimtane, though these are super sparse underground, and there's a better way to get them later. So the main thing you should be looking for underground is either gold or platinum. And of course, the rare ores spawn more frequently the deeper you go. Now as you go deeper down, you'll likely come across a rail system. These help connect the cave systems and make exploring a breeze. If you don't remember from the menu section, all you have to do to ride a rail is press R when you're next to the rail and you get into a minecart. While zooming on the minecart, you can ram into enemies and kill them, so don't be scared of them stopping you. While exploring, you'll likely come across these rooms with a golden chest in them, which is basically just an upgraded version of the wooden chest. Don't be fooled by some similar looking chests though. Now at this point, we'd be getting into the more nitty and gritty stuff, so let's hope you found a recall potion and poof back home.
Guys?
Okay, awesome. Now that you're back home, it's time to make upgrades to your gear and junk. First thing you need to do is make an anvil to actually make stuff with the bars that you got. Wait, how do you make an anvil again? Oh, I know, let's ask the guide. Oh yeah! So you've probably been wondering about this loser over here and what his whole deal is. This is what we in the business like to call an NPC. This one in particular is probably the most useful. If you talk to him, it opens up a little menu where he's all nice to you, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is this right here. the crafting. It'll prompt you to put an item into this slot, and the guide shows you everything that you can craft with that item. It'll also show you what stations you'll be needing for that specific recipe. Super helpful for finding what things you can make with all the random stuff you find. The guide isn't the only NPC though. There's a large variety of NPCs, 26 in total. But how do you get more NPCs, you're probably asking? Well, the answer lies right here, your house. If you make a structure like this, background walls, a table, chair, and some type of light, bing bang boom, you got a place for your NPCs to spawn. This one you've already built is being occupied by the guide, so you'll have to build another one for a different NPC to show up. Okay, I might have lied. The NPCs are actually friends with benefits. Each NPC has its own specific requirements for spawning. The ones that are easiest to do right now will be the merchant, dye trader, nurse, or the demolitionist. For the merchant, all you need is 50 or more silver in your inventory.
He's lured by capitalism.
For the dye trader, you'll need an item that can be turned into a dye, on top of already having 4 NPCs in your world. For the nurse, you'll need to have 100 or more health with the merchant already present. Lastly, for the demolitionist, you'll need some type of explosive in your inventory with the merchant already present. All of these serve their own purpose, merchant selling random wares, nurse selling you, dye trader selling you dyes, and the demolitionist selling you bombs. Okay, pause. A side tangent I felt obligated to mention, but I didn't really know where to put it in. Fishing! All you need is a fishing rod and some bait. If you talk to the merchant, you can buy a bug net, which is the easiest way to find bait. Next, you find yourself an open source of water, and get to fishing. As long as you have bait in your inventory, it'll be used by the rod, which you can see working here. You can also put it in your ammo slot, which is very dandy. There's tons of good things you can get from fishing. Of course you can get fish, which are helpful for a variety of things, but more interesting are crates. They come with all sorts of goodies that you'll be wanting. These will also be upgraded to a different tier of crate once you enter hard mode. Each mine will have its own special crate that gives you the loot you find in certain chests. Really helpful if you'd rather sit and fish than explore the underground. But wait, there's more! If you made it to one of these oceans, you might have come across this guy, the angler. Talking to him, you'll discover he's an entitled brat, but also that you can accept a fishing quest. He'll tell you where you can find a specific quest fish, and if you can give it to him within that day, he'll give you a special reward. Oh, and for the record, the Terraria day is 4:30 to 7:30, and the day resets at 4:30. Now this stuff can range from useless junk to some of the most useful items in the game.
I don't want another sextant. I need a fish finder, you little piece of shit.
And that's the basics of fishing. Now let's go back to the NPCs. Now I can finally talk about this thing. This is the NPC menu. Lets you see what NPCs you have. It also allows you to check if a housing you built is suitable for NPCs, or it just lets you move a specific NPC into that room. It puts a little gold border around their banner so they'll always be back there if they die. Oh yeah, for the record, NPCs can die as much as you want. As long as they've shown up once, they'll come back regardless of the initial requirements. They can also only spawn during the day and stay inside during the night or rain. Now, hold on to your seats, because we're getting to something a bit more complex, which is NPC happiness. In the olden days of Terraria, you could have just stuck NPCs all in the same building and call it a day. But now they'll get upset and make their prices skyrocket, which isn't really something you want.
I don't see the issue being crammed in a tiny tower made of wood.
What affects NPC happiness is 2 things: who they're living with and what biome they're in. The guide and merchant, for example, are really friendly with each other and both love the forest, so it makes sense to put them there. However, let's say the nurse and the zoologist were together. Well, the nurse hates furries, so they don't work well together, and their happiness will lower a lot. If you're wondering about which NPCs are happiest with which, I'd recommend looking at the Terraria wiki. It's the best place to find this sort of information. If any NPC has high happiness, then it'll unlock a special item in their shop called a pylon. The pylon system is basically a fast travel system. Let's say you have a town set up in the forest and one set up in the desert, with the respective pylons in each. All you need is 2 NPCs near that pylon, and you can open up your map and teleport between the 2 towns. There's 8 unique pylons in total, with one of them only being unlocked once you complete the bestiary. The other 7 though are all biome specific. Super useful, so you can have a lot of points to teleport to instantly. The only place NPCs can't live are the evil biomes. Everywhere else is free game. Oh yeah, and once you have at least 2 NPCs, then there's also a chance for the traveling merchant to spawn. He either sells really good stuff or absolute garbage. You may also find a merchant while you're in the caverns, a cool skelly man. He sells a lot of stuff for yo-yos. Speaking of yo-yos, you might have noticed this with weapons saying they either do melee, magic, ranged, or summon damage. These all represent the 4 main classes being warrior, mage, ranger, and summoner. Each weapon has a lot of unique stuff to them, with different buffs and subclasses within each of them. So I thought I'd go over all of them. Well, actually I want a break. I'll let these bozos go over it.
Have you ever wanted to stab people and get up close and personal with everyone and everything around you? You have? Well, okay, you freak. Anyways. The warrior class is all about melee. It's all pretty simple. There's no ammo, magic, or an amount of anything you gotta worry about other than your health. It's nice and simple, just the way things should be. Warriors are the tankiest of the classes, having the most defense to support their close-range fighting style. Most of the armor sets will also provide a buff to any melee trait, such as damage, attack speed, or additional defense, with accessories following the same pattern. One of the most important early game accessories is the Feral Claws, as it allows you to auto-swing your weapon instead of having to spam click. As you progress through the game, the melee armors will begin to have an emphasis on enemies targeting you specifically. So if you're doing a multiplayer playthrough, be prepared for that. You've got swords, spears, boomerangs, yo-yos, and flails at your disposal. Tools also do melee damage, but for the most part, you'll never be using them as a primary weapon. Almost all of your early game weapons are going to come from ores, whether it's ones you've mined or what you've gotten from a boss. Some enemies will also drop melee weapons, but by the time you find out they actually exist, you'll already have better items. Swords are what you always start with. Some you jab with, like the copper short sword that your character has when you make them, and some are swung, like most swords you'll be crafting with ores and such. Don't make short swords, they're honestly just a waste for general use, especially when spears exist. Unfortunately, the only way to get these guys in the early game is to find them in a chest. They attack the same way a short sword does, but with a much longer reach that could prove beneficial in some scenarios. They're pretty nice if you find one within the first hour or two of gameplay. Boomerangs. Boomerangs are one of your ranged friends for melee, as they give your attacks distance, being a single item that you throw outwards and they return to you after a small period of time. They border on being in the ranger class, but don't require any ammunition and have melee damage attributes. Yo-yos. Yo-yos are a sort of follow-the-mouse type weapon. Within a certain range of the player, they will move where your mouse goes, as long as there's not a block in the way of them getting to it. There are a lot of accessories to improve how they function, but I've never been too big on yo-yos themselves. They're kinda weird, like a lot of you watching this video. Flails. Listen, just bear with me guys, I really like these things. Alright, so, in the early game, these things are just awesome. Your first flail can be found in a chest underground, and from there you can instantly upgrade it to be on fire! As long as you've got 99 torches laying around. Flails are the perfect mix of close and long range combat. Holding your attack button, it spins around you like a sword, and upon release, it's thrown in the direction of your mouse like a boomerang. The flails are my preferred weapon for the early game as they offer the best of both worlds, and are quite frankly just a blast to use. Anyways, I'll pass it on to the stinky magic guy from here.
You ever wanted to be a wizard? Wanted to dip your very soul in the art of magic? Well, then Terraria's got just the class for you. Mage is all about magic. Firing balls of energy, summoning flames, shooting lasers, hissing. It's all here. There's a wide variety of different types of magic weapons, but they all fall under 4 categories. Wands, spellbooks, magic guns, and other. What they all share in common, though, is doing magic damage and using mana. Mana, of course, being this game's version of MP, magic bar, PP, whatever you want to call it. Basically is the ammo for magic weapons. And once you stop firing a magic weapon, your gauge will start to refill naturally, or you could just drink a mana potion to regenerate your mana. When you start the game, you have very little amount of mana. Single star worth 25 points. Pathetic. But by collecting 5 fallen stars, you can craft mana crystals, which increase your mana. You can also combine fallen stars with a bottle to increase mana regen in a vicinity. Just a little helpful tip. The armor and accessories play into this as well. Most armor sets will of course increase magic damage, but also focus on increasing the amount of mana you have and decreasing the amount of mana you use, with the same being said for accessories. Though there is a really important accessory known as the Mana Flyer, which you can combine with a mana potion. Once equipped, it lets you auto-drink mana potions once your mana runs out, which is a must-have. Let's rewind a bit to those weapon types we talked about before. Wands. Wands are what you'll likely come across first in the form of the Wand of Sparkling or one of the gem staffs. They're also probably the most abundant mage weapon type in the game. Tons of wands for you to choose from. All of them have different effects, but consist of shooting a projectile out of the tip of the staff. These can be fast, slow, large, small, persistent, bouncy, really anything. The only thing they truly have in common is how they all look, all being a stick with something attached to them. Spell books. Now, books are pretty similar to wands, except now they're books. They all shoot projectiles that range in effects, with the only real thing they have in common being that they're books. Magic guns. Magic guns are different and cool because they're like a gun. Most commonly, these will shoot a laser that travels fast. However, there are a lot of that shoots different types of projectiles. So really the only thing magic guns have in common is that they're guns. The other category is for the weapons that don't fit into any of the other molds. These can be really anything. Harps, severed heads, you name it. Though they all still conjure some sort of projectile. They're all the same. There isn't a category for any of them. Besides their appearance, they're all just the projectile weapons in different fonts.
Wealth, fame, power. Gold Roger, the king of the pirates, attained this and everything else the world had to offer. Wait a minute, wrong script. Ah, here it is. Do you know what time it is? It's time for America Simulator! While playing as a ranger, you can decimate anything that dares to stand in your way. Is there a little cave bat in front of you? Blast it to hell where it belongs with your mini shark. Enough antics. It's time to actually discuss the class. Ranger technically has 6 categories, but I want to specifically highlight the main 4. Guns, launchers, bows, and repeaters. I'll still talk about the rest though, don't you worry. Now, those main 4 all use ammo. Bullets for most of the guns, rockets for most of the launchers, and arrows for the bows and repeaters. Ammo can be obtained in a multitude of ways, and frankly there's a lot to talk about. First off, bullets. You're going to obtain the mass of all your bullets from crafting them. From meteor shots to luminite bullets, they are all crafted from some type of material. Except for musket bullets. They want to be special and are the only ones bought, and also the basic bullet. You can buy these from the arms dealer for 7 copper each or 70 silver for 1,000 rounds. Now for arrows. Arrows come in many shapes and sizes, but I don't want to drag this on anymore, so I'll keep it short. You can craft or buy the wooden arrow, which is the basic arrow. The merchant sells them for 5 copper each, so have fun. And every other arrow can be crafted from the wooden arrow or materials. Well, now that we're done talking about ammo, I think it's a good time to bring up what the armor and accessories do for the class, other than make you look sick as f***. The accessories and armor do essentially the same thing. They focus on reducing the amount of ammo consumed and increasing the range damage, giving you the means to cause even more bloodshed. Fortunately, Ranger has the second highest defense for their armor out of all the classes. Unfortunately, Ranger has the least amount of accessories available compared to the other classes. So, tough luck. With that taken care of, we can finally go over the actual types of weapons. Guns. Guns are pretty simple. They shoot ammo. While some guns might do something special to the ammo, the guns mainly differ in fire rate and damage. A better gun has higher damage and fire rate. Pretty darn simple. Though that doesn't make them boring. A lot of guns have special attributes. For example, the Vortex Beater shooting a Vortex rocket every couple of shots. Launchers. To me, launchers are pretty boring. I mean, there are only 10 of them. Launchers really just shoot rockets. Wow, unbelievable, am I right? Bows. Bows are also pretty simple. Can you guess what they do? Can you guess what the f*** they do? Wow, that's right, they shoot arrows. Bows differ in damage and velocity just like guns, but bows can also shoot multi-shots and pierce enemies. If it's the right bow, of course. Ha! Isn't that just awesome? Huh? Repeaters. Where am I again? Oh yeah, hell! Now, if you're like me, you're burning for your sins, and also had no clue repeaters existed. Apparently, they're just like bows, but are usually better and have autofire. unlike bows. So that's neat. Though, like launchers, they are only available in hard mode. Other. Finally, it's almost over. The last part of the Ranger section are your consumables and grenades, because yes, they are different. Your consumables include things like shurikens and throwing knives, while grenades are grenades. Your grenades include the basic grenade, sticky grenade, bouncy grenade, beanade, and happy grenade. And that's it. I'm free!
Okay, that was a nice break. Let's talk about the most unpopular class. So the Summoner class is all about summoning these little helper guys to obliterate your foes while you sit there and do basically nothing. There's two types of weapons that can be used as a summoner, which are staffs, not to be confused with mage wands, and whips. There are technically 3 separate subclasses for summoner, though one is barely even considered its own subclass at all, and you'll likely end up using all of them together anyways. The first subclass is all about minions. You simply click and bam, a little guy is summoned to help you out. The staffs use a little bit of mana to summon minions, but overall it's not fundamental to the class or anything. How many minions you can summon is based purely on armor, accessories, and buffs, with the base being 1. The minions will auto-target onto the closest enemy, with most being stopped by walls as they can't see through them. However, there is a way to manually pick who the minions target onto. Whips are a super helpful weapon that are actually a new addition. Before you would just kinda stand there and watch your minions go at it, but now you actually have to get your up and go fight the boss! Whips are pretty similar to melee weapons, just really long and do summon damage instead, with some having special effects such as poison or explosions. Most importantly though, they'll guide your minions to target onto a specific enemy. When you hit something with a whip, it'll get this little circle symbol telling your minions to attack them. And the final subclass for Summoner are Sentries. You can just click and bam, a stationary attacker. This is what I mean, as you can't really play a Summoner with only Sentries. It would be super difficult. They're great at adding on attack with the help of the other minions though. You can also use a whip with these as they target whatever enemy you last hit with your whip, just like the minions. The armor for summoners typically revolves around summoning extra minions. Most armor sets will have a bonus that gives more minions, and will just give more minions in general. Though there are some that give different effects related to minions, such as increasing minion damage. Same goes for accessories, with most of them increasing damage and the amount of minions you can have. I do think Summoner is the weakest structure-wise out of the 4, but I still do enjoy having an army of little guys.
Finally, it's my turn. The best class in the game that too many people forget about. Throwing class.
And that's the 4 classes. They're super fun to experiment with and see what type of build you can create for each class. Though, I'd like to add if you don't want to pick one specific class, then you don't have to. Many people just choose to run a mixed class where they use weapons they find the most interesting and fun to play, so feel free to do that. Even I did that my first couple of times playing. Just do whatever sounds the most fun to you. We're only here to describe the primary classes. Multiplayer in Terraria is probably my favorite way to play the game. I love the game to death, but it alone doesn't always hook me back. What does is just how much fun it is to experience it with other people. This is probably why I've bought almost all my friends a copy of Terraria, and why I'm making this video, because they don't know how to play the game. Terraria actually allows for up to 8 people to play at a time on a personally hosted world, though if you have a server you can set as many people as you want to be allowed to join. There's also plans for cross-platform to be added in the future, so that's exciting. Sorry, I got sidetracked. If you're looking to host the world, just go to multiplayer and click host and play. Pick your character and world, set a password if you want, and there you go. You have a world open for anyone on your friends list to join. There aren't too many differences between a normal world and a multiplayer world, and it's not like your world is stuck in multiplayer either. It's only considered a multiplayer world once you join through host and play. Otherwise, it'll go back to being a typical single player world. The main differences are as followed. Whenever you open your menu, on the right here, it will show you 6 shield symbols. These are the different teams, and they have a variety of perks, and by that I mean like 3. The first allows you to see where your teammates are as long as they're within 2,000 tiles of you, though you'll always be able to see where they are on the map. And it allows you not to attack your teammates if you enable the PvP option right above the shields. And lastly is the best factor. There's a new potion called the Wormhole Potion, and it's the best thing for multiplayer. If you and your friend are on the same team, you can open the map and it lets you teleport to your friend with the Wormhole Potion. These can be a bit annoying to find as they only naturally spawn when you break open pots, but you can also craft them with this recipe. Lastly is the effect this has on bosses and events. Depending on if your world is in expert mode or master mode, it'll scale the bosses to have more health depending on how many people are in the world. For expert mode, the boss's health is increased by about 35% per person. The same thing applies to events that involve killing multiple enemies, in which case you'll simply have to kill about 35% more. Another feature added to multiplayer in relation to the bosses is if you hit the boss at any point during the fight, you'll get your own treasure bag, meaning each player will get their own treasure bag as long as they do damage. Biggest factor for me when deciding what difficulty to play with my friends in. That's about all I can think of that's special with multiplayer, so now I think it's actually time to prepare for an upcoming boss. Bosses in Terraria are unique, but you get to decide where you fight them and how you fight them. The first two bosses in Terraria are these guys, though most skip King Slime because he's not necessary for progression, just providing some useful drops. If you don't want to fight him, go ahead, I'm not here to stop you. What we'll be focusing on though is the Eye of Cthulhu. All that you need for it is the simple 6 lenses that you get from Demon Eyes to craft the suspicious looking eye. Oh, and you need a Demon or Crimson Altar, which you can either find in the Corruption or Crimson Underground respectively, though you might find one in a cave, which would save you the hassle of having to go through the evil biomes. Now at this point, I've already taught you all the basics, so if you're feeling confident, feel free to go and explore the world to your heart's content and do whatever you want to do. But if you still want a bit more help on how to prepare for the boss, then I'll give you some tips. Number 1 is obtaining more health. If you went underground, you likely came across these things called heart crystals, which increase your maximum health by 20. Though I should warn you that once you're past 200 health, the Eye of Cthulhu can spawn naturally on top of an event called the Goblin Army, where a bunch of tiny green men come to assault you. There are also some more obscure upgrades you can get by going to a magical place known as the Shimmer. They'll spawn on the same side of your world as the jungle and be deep underground more towards the ocean. Depending on what you throw into the Shimmer, you'll get something special back in return. Or maybe you won't get anything depending on what you throw in. There are 4 things that will happen when you throw in items. They'll either uncraft, change to a different variation of said item, be enhanced, or nothing will happen at all.
You know, I wonder what would happen if we threw gun in.
Only one way to find out.
Wait, guys, no!
I bring this up as you can throw items in to get upgrades, like a life crystal to get a vital crystal, which increases your HP regeneration. I'll put all the upgradable items you can get for future reference. You'll also be wanting more loot to help you during the fight too, things like mobility or damage enhancers. Something like a hook to launch you, or Hermes boots to give you more speed. And remember that goblin army I just mentioned? Well, it might actually be a good idea to fight them, as they give something super useful, the Goblin Tinkerer. You'll find him somewhere tied up underground once you've beat the goblins, and he offers a service that's pretty similar to something like enchanting in Minecraft. You probably noticed these little titles in your weapon, like Agile or Deadly. These show what stats are increased for your weapon, with some clearly being better than others. The Goblin Tinkerer allows you to reforge your weapons to get a better modifier for some money. Each class's weapon has a specific modifier that works best for it, and I'll put these up here right now. Accessories are also able to be modified, with there being 6 specific best modifiers for each stat. These are all the ones as followed. While they aren't super important, especially at this point in the game, it's still helpful to know what these are, and they can help prepare you for future battles.
Just give me legendary, you little...
Next, I'd look into getting some type of ranged weapon. The video is starting to get unnecessarily long though, so let's go ahead and speed through some weapons you can get for the boss based on the classes. Boomerangs are a good choice that can be found early in chests and upgraded into enchanted boomerangs. If you find a hole like this, go down it and you might get an enchanted sword. Find a mace. They're awesome and can be upgraded to a flaming mace. Mage. It's easiest to make a gem staff, with different materials making more powerful staffs. At the entrance to the dungeon, there's a chance of nabbing a water bolt, though it's unlikely. In the underground desert, there's a chance to find a powerful staff called the Zapper. Ranger. I don't know, make a boat. There is a gun available in the underground evil biome by breaking a shadow orb or crimson heart with a hammer that can be reached by using bombs. Don't break more than 2 though. Shuriken and throwing knives are really good. Summoner. If you found 50 or more creatures, the fairy will show up and you can buy a whip. There's a chance of finding a finch staff in these giant trees. If you go into the underground snow, you can kill these sphinxes and they'll drop fur that you can use to craft a staff. Of course, there's a variety of other weapons you could find, but these are the easiest ones to acquire in my opinion. And they're more than enough to kill the Eye of Cthulhu. He's not that difficult. If you want to get those real hard weapons though, go check out the Terraria wiki and the guide class setup page. Shows you everything that you can get, plus helps you find what you can get before each boss in general. I'll link it down below. Next is potions. There's a variety of potions you can make that'll increase things like defense, speed, health, etc. All you need to make potions are the ingredients and a workbench with a glass bottle on it. Though getting the ingredients can be really tedious. You've already found a good amount of potions in the underground though, so you might be set. But if you want to see all the potions available, just put a bottle of water in the guide's crafting search. Oh, and to make a bottle of water, you simply need to stand in water with a bottle and go into your crafting menu. Probably the two biggest factors for making potions will be herbs and fish though, so good luck finding all of those.
As a chef, I gotta say, adding fish to a beverage is a bold, if not just plain stupid move.
One of these we gotta use a bone, so I think the fish sounds pretty good.
And being honest, a lot of the time I don't even end up using potions, so don't stress yourself too much when prepping. I just do a test run first to see if you actually need them. Lastly, you'll need to make an arena. Don't worry, I don't mean anything massive and fancy. All you really need is a bunch of platforms. They're perfect for bosses as you can easily go through them, and so can your projectiles. You can just make something like this and it'll work just fine. Be sure to throw in some campfires, stars in a bottle, and heart lanterns to help with regen during the fight. I also suggest making it near wherever your spawn is, so it'll be easier to get back into the battle if you're playing multiplayer. Otherwise, once you die, the fight's over. You can also change your spawn point entirely by making a bed, which does require a couple of extra steps that I'll show right now. Now it's finally time for the battle. All that work you've been putting up has led to this moment. The Eye of Cthulhu can only be spawned at night though, so you'll have to wait. Sleeping in a bed does speed up time though if you did that. His first phase is pretty easy, as he just dashes at you and spawns some babies. Once you get him to half health, he goes into his second phase, which consists of him turning into a gaping mouth. Now it's basically the same, he just dashes at you a lot more frequently. If you're playing extra mode, he'll have an extra attack where he dashes really fast, and continues to dash really fast more frequently as the fight goes on. But that's basically it, just evade and shoot and you'll win. He has a variety of drops, with the most useful being a buttload of Demonite or Crimtane. You can't craft any armor yet, but you can craft some sick new weapons. Lastly, let me quickly tell you about some items that are consistent throughout all the bosses. Each boss will have a 14.29% chance to drop a mask that represents that boss. They'll have a 10% chance to drop a trophy that represents that boss. If you're playing in Master Mode, every boss will have a 100% chance to drop a relic that represents the boss. Also in Master Mode, every boss will have a 25% chance of dropping a pet item that represents that boss. That's about all there is for preparing for a boss though. You just gather new weapons, armor, accessories, and create a good place to fight them. However, this is sadly where we'll be parting ways.
Before I leave you, there are a couple of things I felt to mention in my script here, so I thought I'd speed through them for you. Bombs are helpful for mining, and they can be combined with slime to make sticky bombs. With plus or minus, you're able to zoom in and out. You can press H to heal and B to eat buffs. You can't use torches underwater, so glowsticks are a good alternative. Also helpful for mining straight down. Smoker potions are super helpful for mining, along with glow potions. Putting an item frame above a chest is probably the best way for organization, if you organize at all. You probably won't need to craft a chest, you'll likely find a lot throughout the world that you can just steal. The last place you died will always be marked with an X on the map. There's 5 different layers to your world: space, surface, underground caverns, and hell. You can tell where these are with the death meter. There's something known as a gravity potion that lets you fly through the sky. Once you kill 50 of an enemy, they drop a banner. Items don't despawn unless you leave the world. There's an event called a blood moon where unique enemies will spawn. During this, zombies are able to open doors. If you buy a piggy bank from the merchant, it's unique to your character, so anything you put into there will only be accessible by you. During the blood moon, there's also a portable version of this that's dropped by the blood zombies. There's an item called the Extractinator that extractinates silt, slush, and fossils to give good loot. If you place 101 torches in the underground layer, a boss will spawn, and if you survive, it'll give you an item that makes torches match what biome they're in. If torches match the biome, it increases the drop rate of items from enemies. Sitting in chairs regenerates hearts faster. You can right-click accessories to put them on. Dummies let you test weapons. Only one desert has an underground desert. It's pronounced Terraria, not Terraria. The evil biome spread faster in hard mode. Okay, that's it.
I could go over absolutely everything there is to know about Terraria, but I don't want to. I mean, I can at least offer the next couple bosses that you'll need to fight in order, but I don't want to spoil, so here's the steps you'll be needing to encounter them. I should mention the absolute best source of Terraria information though, the Terraria wiki. I brought it up a couple times throughout the video. As literally anything you could want to know about Terraria and more. I would not have been able to get through Terraria my first time without using this, and even now I still end up going back to it. It's a super useful source of information, and I'll be linking it down below for anyone who wants to use it. Massive thank you to my friends that were part of the video, go check out their stuff linked below. And shoutouts to the Terraria team for making one of my favorite games of all time, and curse you for making such an addicting experience. It's 100% your fault that I can't stop playing your game and also have no self-control. Keep up the great work though, I'm always excited to see the game expanded after the final update.